Have you ever come across a deal that just sounds way too good to be true? So good it almost feels wrong? Well, today we're going to unpack a story just like that. A community land sale that seems almost unbelievable. A deal that helped a small handful of people at the expense of, well, pretty much everyone else. Let's dive in.
So this is the central mystery, right? How on earth do 8 families get to buy a valuable piece of land using a price tag from 12 years ago? I mean, think about that. This isn't just some clever real estate deal. This is a story that gets right to the heart of community trust, our legal obligations, and frankly, a whole lot of money that just kind of vanished from the community's wallet.
And here it is, the problem in black and white. On one side, you have what the families actually paid, a number totally frozen in time. On the other side, you've got what that land is really worth today. And that huge gap in the middle, that's not just a number, that's wealth that should have belonged to the entire community.
So how did we even get here? To figure that out, we've got to rewind the clock. We need to go back to the very beginning to see where this land came from, and more importantly, who actually paid for it in the first place.
Okay, before we go any further, let's get to know the cast of characters in this whole drama. First up, you've got the entire community. That's 78 owners. Then there are the 8 families who got this amazing deal. We've also got the builder, who was pulling the strings on the transactions. And finally, the managing committee, the very people elected to look out for everyone's best interests.
So here's the timeline of how this whole thing went down. It all starts way back when these 8 owners can't afford their land plots. So the builder does something kind of clever. He reclassifies their land as a common area and rolls the cost into the total project. You know who pays for it? All 78 homeowners. Now, fast forward 12 years, and here's the kicker. Those same 8 owners get to buy that land back at the original price from over a decade ago. Wow.
All right, now let's zoom in on the sale itself. This is where we really start to follow the money. And let me tell you, what we find is a transaction that raises some pretty serious red flags. 52 lakh. Now, this is the amount the managing committee got from the builder. And on the surface, it looks like a simple payment to the community, right? But the real story here isn't the number itself. It's what they decided to call it in the accounting books.
See, they didn't log this as payment for sale of land. Nope, they booked it as a refund of project money. Now, that might seem like a tiny, boring detail, but trust me, that wording was chosen very carefully, and it was designed to completely hide what was really going on.
So here's the slick maneuver they pulled. The builder already owed the community money for something else entirely, a corpus fund, which is basically a rainy day fund for big repairs. By labeling this land payment a refund, he used it to wipe out that other debt. It's a classic bit of financial sleight of hand that disguised the fact that valuable community land was being sold for pennies on the dollar.
Okay, so we've seen what happened and how they did it. But the biggest question is, why was this legally so wrong? Let's put on our legal hats for a minute and unpack the core principles that were broken here. It all begins with the land itself. The second it was paid for by everyone, it became common property. It was held in trust for all 78 owners, and that means you can't just sell it off to benefit a few of your buddies. I mean, you can't just sell the community park to your friends, right? It's the exact same principle. And that leads us directly to the managing committee and something called their fiduciary duty. It's a high-minded legal term, but it boils down to a very simple, very serious promise. They must act with complete loyalty to the entire community. Signing off on a deal that enriches 8 members at the expense of the other 70, well, that's a direct shot at their most important responsibility. And this right here gets to the absolute heart of the injustice. It's a legal concept called unjust enrichment. Just think about it for a second. The land's value ballooned over 12 years. That growth, that appreciation, belonged to everybody. This deal literally siphoned that wealth away from all 78 owners and handed it over to just 8 of them.
So when you lay all the cards on the table, the legal bottom line is crystal clear. That land was community property, period. The sale was fundamentally flawed. And guess what? Everyone involved, the builder, the managing committee, and yes, even the 8 buyers, they are all on the hook. They can't just hide behind a good deal because they benefited from something that was basically unjust from the start.
Okay, so if this whole deal was so wrong, what can the community actually do about it now? Well, the legal memo makes it clear that it's not too late, and it lays out a really solid, actionable plan for how to find justice. The memo proposes this powerful 4-track approach, It's not just one thing, it's a full court press. First, an internal audit to force some transparency. Second, a civil lawsuit to get the land or its value back. Third, taking it to the regulators to bring in some outside authority. And fourth, if needed, completely reforming the community's own leadership. It's a strategy designed to apply pressure from every single angle.
So, what does winning even look like here? Well, the goal isn't really about punishment. It's about restoration. It's about making the community whole again. In a perfect world, the community gets its land back. If that's not possible, then the beneficiaries have to pay the full difference in value. And very importantly, the builder still has to settle up any other debts he owes.
So let's end with the one powerful, overarching principle that is really at the heart of this entire case. It's a timeless idea about accountability. And that is such a crucial takeaway. Time and silence do not magically make a wrongful act right. An injustice doesn't have an expiration date. It stays an injustice until someone steps up and makes it right.
And that really leaves us with one final question to chew on, not just for this story, but for any community, maybe even your own. Who is ultimately watching the watchers? Who makes sure that the things we all share are actually being protected for everyone? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.